What's going on, guys? It's Code Red here, and welcome to episode 7 of the Advanced Spigot Coding for 1.15 series. In today's episode, we will be going over Tablist. By what I mean by Tablist is when I press tab, we got this, animated effect going on. We have our custom information in there, and I know a lot of people has been asking me for this plugin, so I finally went ahead and made it for y'all. Now, the way I coded this is really nice for you guys. I mean, it's really customizable. We can add multiple lines to the header and the footer easily, and then we run it just on the onEnable. It's about one class of code, and we'll get right into it right about now. So, first thing you want to do is go ahead and create that project. I went ahead and I named it Animated Tab. I went ahead and created a main class. In the main class, I named it Animated Tab. We're going to switch over from usually name them main. We're going to start naming them actually what the project is. So we're not going to name main anymore. We're going to move over to what the project name is. So our main class is named Animated Tab. It extends Java plugin, has an onEnable, onDisable, nothing in them yet because we will put something in the onEnable later. And then I went ahead and created the plugin.yml, nothing special. All it does is make sure our plugin runs correctly as the main name, version, and author. Alright, so first thing you want to do is go ahead, after you create all this stuff, let's go create a new class. And this class is called the Tab Manager. Like I said, I went ahead and I coded this class that makes it really easy for us to edit and customize the headers and footers. Even if you're grabbing them from a config file in the onEnable, you're able to just grab it real quick so it changes. Or even on a reload or plugin reload. Pretty awesome stuff, this code. But the first thing we want to do is create that constructor. So I'm going to pass in first a animated tab plugin. So I'm going to make a constructor. So public tab manager, pass in animated tab of plugin. I'm going to say this dot plugin equals plugin. Awesome. If you're not familiar with that, we're just creating an instance of our main class, so we can later on we can say plugin dot. We can use stuff from our main class, but the reason why we're using an instance for our main class is because we want to use it in our runnable. The animated effect that we had in our tab is a runnable. The changing of colors, changing of text is all runnable. So we'll need to have an instance later on. But once we've created this, we can go ahead and above it, let's create two array lists. So private list, and inside the list is not going to be a string, it's going to be a chat component text. And we dealt with these before, chat component text, just how like different NMS and packets work. They use this. So this is what I'm going to create. I'm going to create a list of chat component text, a list of text, and it's called headers. This is where our headers are going to be used. And of course, make sure you're importing that util. And same thing for array list. So I'm going to copy this, paste it one more time, because instead of headers, we need another one that's called footers. Awesome. Now, before we get into actual setting the packets and editing the stuff, we need to create 3 methods that we add headers, add footers, and then a format of text. So public void add header, string header, and very simple, headers dot add a new chat component text, and then inside here we can say header. We're going to change that in a second, but for right now that's good enough. Let's copy that, let's paste it, change this from add header to add footer, string footer, and then footer. Like I said, really simple code. And then next, we gotta add in some formatting, and it's just to format the color. So we say a private string format and a string message return chat color translate alternate color codes from the and symbol to our message. Alright, so it's just gonna translate all our color codes, and the color codes we want to translate is for our footer, so we can say format here. Footer. Same thing with header. We can say format header. Alright. So what I just did here is I created it so we put all our headers and footers in a list. And that's because I don't want to hard code it in. If you guys have a config file and want to use a config file to do it, that makes it really easy. So I coded this a way where you guys can grab stuff from a config file. So we can add headers and add footers that way. And then, I mean, all we have to do is change color code. So that's what this method here does. It changes the color codes. So once those 3 methods are done, we can get into the actual code of our main method. That is the actual showing of the tab. So I'm going to say public void show tab. First thing I want to say in show tab is if the headers dot is empty, and if the footers dot is empty, let's return. If there is no headers and there is no footers, just return, because we don't have to animate anything. We don't have to show a tab or anything like that. So the code, like I said, what I'm about to do here is animated, so I am going to be using a bucket runnable. If you don't want to animate it, I can show you guys later on how to just set it real quick. But we went ahead and we did make a list of all our stuff, so we are going to animate it so we can be able to change those messages. So the first thing to create we'll create the runnable first. So bucket.getScheduler .schedule sync repeated task, and our plugin here will be plugin, just our instance of our main class, and then the second variable will be a new runnable, and then I'm gonna do that, and I'll do a open curly brace, and I'll press enter. I'm gonna move down the line. arg2 is going to be, we'll go ahead and put 10 ticks in there, and arg3 I'm gonna put 40, which will be 2 seconds. And then we need to hover over this, add implement methods, and that should be fine right there. So this is our runnable. Wherever we put in here will run every 2 seconds. But before we code in here, we need 3 things up above, and then there's our packet and then our counters. So a packet, play out player list, header, footer, I'm pretty sure. Header, footer, packet equals a new, and I'm gonna copy this because I don't feel like typing that all again. Okay. Import that, and there we go. So it's a packet play out player list header footer. So it's going to play out our header and footer, and we're setting equal to a new packet playout player list header footer. We're not doing anything, it's just creating a new packet. Next, let's go ahead and create an int count 1 that equals 0, and then an int count 2 that equals 0. And these counts are just, count 1 is for our headers and count 2 is for our footers. I'll talk about that later in a second. Let's move on into our run. Our run, so everything that we do needs to be surrounded by a try and catch. Because we're dealing with NMS here, we're dealing with packets, and we have to go in through reflection and get the stuff, you know. Well, not reflection, I guess, but we will be going into the class. So we need to try and catch, and I'm going to catch an exception E, and then I'm going to do e.printStackTrace. Because if we do catch an error, let's go ahead and print that in the console so we know what's going on. Alright, so in the try, we'll say field A equals packet dot get class dot get declared field, and I'm talking about this for a second. So the import for field is the reflection one. Oh, I think there we go. The import for field is the reflection. So java.lang reflect. All right, so I'm gonna talk about this for a second. I did a lot of research on this. Of course, I mean, that's how I know everything. I decompile all the classes and stuff. In past versions, how we got the header and footer is we used A and we used B. That is not the case for 1.13 plus. If you're coding in 1.13, 1.14, 1.15, the header is header. If you're coding in versions under 1.13, the header will be A. Same thing with footer. Footer will be footer. If you're coding in less than 13, it will be B. Next episode, I'm actually going to go over an interface class that we're able to use multiple versions on our server, but the same plugin will work. So we can have a plugin that works in 1.15 through 1.8, just uses different ways of NMS. And that's what we'll talk about next episode. And I'll probably use the same exact thing. I'm probably gonna use tab and just put it into some interface classes. But yeah, so we have a header. And then we want to do a.set accessible to true. And like I try to make all my episodes, work with multiple versions. So if you are coding in 1.14 or other versions, just make sure you're importing the right imports. And then if you're coding in 1.12 or below, the header, like I said, is A. And then same thing, let's just copy this. Let's paste it right under. And instead of A, let's name these B. And instead of header, it's footer. And like I said, if you're coding a 1.12 or below, footer would be B. All right. Okay, so we got into this field, we got into the class. We have A and B. A is our header, B is our footer. And the first thing we want to say is if count1 is greater than or equal to headers.size. Let's set count1 to 0. And similarly, if count2 is greater than or equal to footers.size, let's set count2 equal to 0. And then I'll explain that in a second. It'll make more sense if once I type this, a.set packet to our value, which is headers.get count1. And I'm gonna copy that because I'm lazy and type in count2, change headers to footers, and change A to B. Okay, we are almost done, but that right there will probably make a lot more sense. I'm gonna zoom in to this right here, try to explain this. So we saved everything in our headers and footers. Now we don't know, our code doesn't know how many things we're putting in. It can change every single time. I mean, if you're doing it through config, someone can have 5 headers, it can have 1,000 headers. I mean, headers, not headers, headers. So we don't really know how many headers there is. So that's why we have to do this count thing. So count1 is for our headers, and count2 is for our footers. So if headers is the size of 3, if there's 3 different headers in there, we don't want to keep increasing count to count 6 because then we'll get a null error. We want to make sure our count stays in between 0 and 2, 0 and 3, whatever our size minus 1 is, because it's array based. So if we have 3 headers, we want our count 1 to stay in between 0, 1, and 2. That's what we just wanted to repeat, 0, 1, and 2, 0, 1, and 2. So that's how we get the animated effect of it changing. All right. After we set the header and footers, this is how you set the headers and footers, a.set, b.set. We actually need to send the packets out. So if bucket.getOnlinePlayers.size, if that is greater, if that is that doesn't equal 0, we'll say that. If that doesn't equal 0, then we can say for player bucket.getOnlinePlayers, not offline, online players. And then under here we can say craft player dot get handle, dot player connection dot send packet. I'll zoom out again. I go ahead and import all of that. And then last but not least, count1 plus plus count2 plus plus. And boom, we're done. This is our tab manager class. After we set the headers and footers, we want to go ahead and for every single player that's online, let's go ahead and send that packet to them so they're able to see the new header and footer. And just like that, our tab manager class is completely done. And to use this class, let's go into our main class in the onEnable. In the onEnable, let's go ahead and actually add that header and footer. So at the top, let's type in public tab manager, and let's call it tab. We're gonna make this public because we do have lists we want to save in there, and also with like this, you're able to add headers and footers from other classes if you would like. But we're gonna do it all in the main class, and this is really important right here. Make sure you're registering that class like this. Your code will not work if you do not have this in your onEnable. Make sure you have this in your onEnable. Very, very important. But after we have that, we can say tab.add header. Look at this. Now we can use color codes because our code is awesome. We can say ANSI. We can say ANSI and L, coded red. And from before, you saw it said coded red and then it said join the help Discord. The header is only one line long, so if you want to move it down a line, we have to use \n to move down a line. Then we can say and 9, join the help Discord. I'm going to copy this, paste it, and I'm just going to change the colors from this to 4, copy that, paste it, change this one to 6, and then we can say tab.add footer. The footer can just say, I don't know, add B. We'll just do the same thing. Players online plus bucket dot get online players dot size. All right. So once you set the headers and footers to whatever you guys want it to set to, all we have to say is tab.showtab, and that will run our bucket runnable. And just like that, we are completely done. I'm gonna go ahead and start my server and test out the code. Okay, so I did a stupid mistake, and instead of add footer, I put headers here. God, I always make these stupid mistakes. So if you caught that, good job. If you didn't catch that, add footer should definitely say footers.add component, not headers. Okay. All right, now on the server, if I press tab, you'll see we have our animated tab. We have our custom tab with all our information. I mean, it doesn't really look that pretty, I guess, but that's on you guys to make it look pretty. But it does animate, it does show our information, and it works perfectly fine. If it's a spam tab, it works perfect. So I hope you guys did enjoy the episode. I think it's a pretty nice episode because I went ahead and I created this whole tab manager class where it's really nice and easy for you guys to edit and change the headers and footers later on. It's really nice. Like I said, all you have to do is go into here and add header, add footer, and then show tab. These will not save, of course, on a reload or on a server shutdown, so you will need to add them on every onEnable, or if you wanted to, just grab it from a data file or a config file if you have one. But like I said, really super easy to use the tab manager class and edit it through a config or whatever. I hope you guys did enjoy the episode. If you did, like, subscribe, let me know what you guys want to see next. I will be going over interface classes next in the next episode. So I'll see you guys then.